Let's get the view of Constantine Louloudis and George Nash. Who wins it, Stan?
Well, I mean, I'm always going to be true to Oxford. I think they would look really strong yesterday in training. I think they've got the form going in, they've got the personnel. But, you know, it could be a humdinger.
George?
I think Stan's right. I think it's going to be a very close race. Cambridge looked to me like the sharper crew, but Oxford's strength is difficult to avoid. So I think if Cambridge are to win, it'll go down to the wire. I certainly hope they do. Let's see what's happening.
I think we're both hoping for a good race.
It will. It should be a really competitive, strong race, this. Let's hand you over to our commentary team. You're going to hear from Wayne Pommen. He's out on the course, along with Zoe de Toledo, Tom James and Andrew Cotter. It's time for the 163rd Cancer Research UK boat race.
So they wait, and I wonder if they saw the start of the women's race and what happened there, the dreadful start for Oxford. But here they sit, Putney Bridge looming over them, cries from the bank. The beat of a helicopter above. It's an oppressive atmosphere, and the skies have darkened, the temperature has dropped quite a bit, and they know, these two crews, that 17 or 18 minutes, it might be quicker than that today, judging by the times for the previous races. But those minutes, 16, 17 minutes, that's the culmination of all the days and months of training, and for some years of ambition, and the next 17 minutes or so will decide how the story ends. Just a few final moments of waiting, and Tom James alongside Zoe de Toledo. And Tom, you know how nerve-wracking these moments can be for an oarsman.
It is, definitely. I mean, it's this part is something you can't really train for. You just got to deal with it on the day, and you do all of this training. It's all there, but it's just got to come out naturally in those 60 minutes. And you have this 2 or 3 minute window of just waiting. What do you think about?
You know, we see a little bit of driftwood, or a stray duck. It's just a driftwood. It's not ordnance from the Second World War, thankfully, but so they're just waiting. And the umpire, who is Matthew Pinson, there he is, rather cool, a man who rode in this 3 times.
Get ready.
Twice a winner, once a loser, but a second time an umpire of the men's boat race. And there is Hugo Ramamberson with his hand up, showing that he's not happy yet. And Vasilis Ragoussis in the strokes lead had that stare off with Henry Meek, his opposite number. So Matthew Pinson waits, and that incoming tide is as strong as it gets now, so the boats will be splaying around a bit. Really is a strong current today. They're just about ready though, but you can see the arm of Sam Collier is up for Oxford. And again, that first stroke, so important. Happy in the Cambridge boat? No. Ramamberson's arm goes up. This is what happens. You're just waiting for the moment when both coxes are happy.
Attention.
Down goes the red flag, and away they go in the 163rd boat race. Short, quick strokes which take them out before they'll settle into a longer, steadier rhythm. But now approaching 40 strokes a minute, and perhaps more, and the adrenaline is released, and so important, even in a 4.2 mile race, so important to get a good start. And perhaps Surrey at the top of your picture, on the Surrey bank, the south bank, just with a slight edge.
I think that's right. Oxford getting away clean at strokes off the start. I think Cambridge just slightly long off the start, so a little bit slow to get going. The important thing now is for Cambridge not to panic, not to overrate. They want to just come down into rhythm at the right time and not be distracted by that.
They are the slightly lighter crew, Oxford, but Cambridge seem to have just nibbled back into that very early lead. And the initial advantage in terms of bends in this river is for Cambridge on the Middlesex bank, about a quarter of a length round Craven Cottage. But no, there is just a quarter of a length perhaps there to Oxford at the moment.
It looked to me like the Cambridge crew went off, pointed slightly wide out towards the right, and then had to do a little bit of a wiggle to come back in. Hugo Ramamberson in that Cambridge crew did a great job to overturn Ian Middleton, who'd been the Blue Boat Cox for 3 years, and he's apparently was just hungrier for it and got himself into that seat. He looks now to have got his crew back on track.
Well, we know that Cambridge crew there contains great power in the middle of the boat, but this Oxford crew has such great talent. Olivier Sigala, the Dutch athlete, the Olympian bronze medalist from Rio in the 5-seat, Michael De Santo, who finished 4th in that very same race in Rio in the 60, the president, and that is a big lead early on for Oxford.
I think it is, and it's what we expected. I think Oxford were favourites coming to this. We've seen it time and time again. They're very good at getting out off the start and then settling. We knew that. Cambridge, they've had a good season the last couple of weeks. They've been on top form and looking very good. This is sort of what we expected. Slightly less experienced crew. As they come into their advantage now, this is where they need to make sure they settle into a strong pattern, not get overwhelmed by being a length down. Vowseed, the Cambridge guy, needs to make a few calls down, remind them that there's a bit of distance. They're still there next to them.
Yeah, Cambridge have got the advantage of about a quarter to a third of a length on this bend, so it's going to be important for them to capitalise on that, and equally important for Oxford that if Cambridge do inch back on them a couple of seats, they don't panic.
Again, you see the crowds who have stayed for this late start to the boat race in 2017. And out there on the water for us again, as he was in the women's race, is Wayne Potter. What do you make of the start to the race, Wayne?
Well, what an impressive start for Oxford. They just went like a scalded cat out of the gates there. That was very impressive. And they almost had a shot at breaking free before this first turn, which is in Cambridge's favor. But they couldn't quite do that. And now Matthew Pinson is making sure the crews stay apart and making sure Cambridge has a chance to take their corner. And this is where Cambridge needs to get into a rhythm now and start to peg their way back. They've got a lot of work to do around the outside of this next bend.
Well, we could see there how close the blades are coming, and they just begin to ease apart now, but a danger of clashing there between the blades in the Cambridge bow and the Oxford stern, but Cambridge have certainly put a little bit of a push in there, and again eaten away into that Oxford lead.
Yeah, their bend is coming to the end now, and they have really done a great job of capitalising on it. Both coxes doing a lovely job of keeping their crews close, but not too close.
No, as Zoe de Toledo alongside me, former Oxford cox, knows all too well. Tom James, former Cambridge man, and Wayne Pollin, former Cambridge president out there. But again, we wait for the angle to tell us exactly how big that lead is for Oxford at the moment, but certainly looks no more than a quarter of a length.
No, I think Cambridge did very well. They've come off, they've had that little bit of advantage, but they're starting to relax into it now. Their blade works a little bit better. Oxford's initial advantage, just getting them that chance to settle and actually look solid. You can see they look strong. They've got a big engine room in the middle there in the opposite boat. Cambridge, this is imperative. The next couple of minutes, go out to Hammersmith. They need to stay in touch. They need to keep working on getting another seat.
Again, as they come past Barn Elms Wetland Centre, you can see how close the blades are coming together once more, because the boats are fighting for the quickest water, a narrow channel of water, which is where the tide rushes in the deeper part of the river, and again a real danger of the blades clashing.
Yeah, I think there actually was a bit of touch there, and actually I think Oxford came off better, but Cambridge still hanging in there at the moment.
Good view there of the tandem rigging in the Cambridge setup. You see the two oars on the same side there of Patrick Ebel and Lance Treadle, both on the stroke side, and you can hear Matthew Pinson just warning Oxford there to move back into their water, so Oxford have to move just with a light touch on the rudder wires. The cox will have to pull them away there.
Yeah, and Sam Collier is just calling for them to stay loose, stay relaxed in that Oxford boat.
On closer again, and there a little clash. I think Freddie Davidson, his blade catching that of Jamie Cook perhaps in the Oxford boat. So again, this is what happens in the boat race. They're fighting for that very narrow channel of water which provides the quickest path.
And this is getting slightly dangerous ground for Cambridge. So you've got the stroke from Oxford sitting on the bow seat of Cambridge. You're on the stroke seat of the Cambridge boat. You can't really see Oxford at all. So there needs to be communication going back. But this next couple of minutes is imperative for Cambridge to stay in touch. They've got to have overlap.
We can hear Hugo, you've got to move, said Matthew Pinson, and Cambridge have lost ground there. Anytime you touch the wires with a heavy hand, it's break on the boat as well. So suddenly Cambridge are a length down, Wayne Pollin.
Yes, they are. They actually missed a stroke. The Oxford two-man missed a stroke. He hit his blade on the Oxford seven-man, missed a complete stroke. And that, combined with the steering, has really cost Cambridge. And now they're not in a good position at all. Oxford has the inside of this bend for the next 6 or 7 minutes. So Cambridge needs to produce something special right now if they're going to stay in this race.
I think the Cambridge cox there really was doing what he thought was best to try and keep his crew in the race, but it might have just cost them as they had to steer out a little bit as they were being warned there by the umpire, Matthew Pinson.
Now just coming under Hammersmith Bridge. This is where Oxford, you're going to see them probably turn. It's just coming to the beginning of a real advantage. It's where Cambridge have still got a bit of overlap, but they're going to have to keep pushing. This is turning into a short race for Cambridge. They're going to have to treat the next couple of minutes as coming up to the end of the race. They're going to have to keep touch, keep overlap.
It's going to have to be a huge effort from Cambridge now, because Oxford are just beginning to stretch out underneath and past Hammersmith Bridge, and between 80 and 85% of the time the boat which leads at Hammersmith Bridge goes on to win. And now Oxford on the Surrey station. The south bank will have that big bend around the south bank, will have that advantage. So the next couple of minutes for Cambridge is going to have to be a huge effort to hang in there and give themselves a chance in the second half of the race.
Yeah, Cambridge absolutely are not letting go of this. If I was Oxford, I would want to be moving a little bit more here with this advantage. Hopefully we'll see that start to happen for them as this bend continues.
So Cambridge doing a fantastic job actually. They've probably got another 2 or 3 minutes. They can keep this overlap and it starts coming into their advantage. So we're coming past St Paul's, almost up to the halfway mark. As long as they can still keep in touch and feel the wash down from the Oxford boat, then this is still a race.
There is Hugo Ramamberson, the 20-year-old French-British student.
He's moving a lot there in his legs, and you'd want to make sure you're sitting nice and still so you're not upsetting the boat, but that's what happens in the excitement in the middle of a race.
Just a bit of life around the water here, and Cambridge are trying to hang on, but Oxford are opening out to a length and a half lead and looking strong. And again, I remind you of the experience they have in there in Siegelar and De Santo, and the Cook brothers, Vasilis Ragusis at stroke, and Sam Collier urging them on.
Yeah, and I think we just saw Oxford put in a big push. So at this point, they want to break away. They want to make a gap so that Cambridge can't even feel, they can't feel the presence of Oxford. So at this point, this is a really important moment for Oxford to keep moving away. But Cambridge is still in touch. They're still actually almost pushing back on Oxford now.
Back down to Wayne Palman out on the river.
Well, it looks to me like Oxford might have done what they needed to do here when you're racing on the Surrey station, which is push hard around Hammersmith when you've got the bend and get yourself at least a quarter length, half length, and then you can control the rest of the race. You can go wherever you like. Cambridge have to produce something really quickly now to force Oxford back onto their side of the river if they want to stay in this race. Otherwise, Oxford can go wherever they like when the river turns back round the next bend.
That's a good view of it there. As you see, the bend will start to move around to the right-hand side after a while, but still with the Surrey bend, still with Oxford. But again, if Oxford get that clear water ahead of Cambridge, then they can choose their line, which they can at the moment. Matthew Pinsent back in the umpire's launch, keeping control, and the blades are close, but Cambridge are clear water behind at the moment.
I don't think this is over yet. Cambridge are hanging in there, and if anything, I think they might have taken back a couple of feet in those last 10 strokes or so. You know, I think in that Oxford boat, they've got to just stay relaxed and just make sure that they use this advantage.
I think Zoe's right. I think we've got a little bit of a straight here, probably for another 30 seconds. A little bit more of an advantage going around to the left for Oxford, so they've still got a bit more to play. But if Cambridge can keep hold for the next another minute and a half, then it starts to come around to their advantage, and Oxford then start being on the back foot. Whichever crew is moving has the advantage, and at the moment, they've still been level just for the last 3 or 4 minutes, and the advantage has come from Oxford's bend as opposed to its boat speed.
They're hanging in as they come past the end of Chiswick here, the island in the middle of Chiswick Reach, and then they'll come to the crossing and move across to favour the north bank of the river, and then under Barnes Bridge, and all the bend after that will favour. Well, Oxford can choose their line, of course. There's Chiswick Pier in the distance, and now Cambridge, this is a huge moment for them, because if they can hang in, then perhaps Oxford will start to become just a little bit demoralised.
Yeah, they've now done what is the umpire's worst nightmare, which is they've crossed stations. The crews are not allowed to row on the wrong station. Cambridge are now coming back fast, and they've got to get back onto the right stations.
Yes, they can't pass if they were to get back into contact with the Oxford boat. They can't do that on that side because they started, well, Cambridge started on Middlesex, so that's fine now if they were to stay on that side, but they couldn't have come under the other side of Oxford, who started on Surrey. And that gap's not moving out, Tom, is it?
Not yet. Cambridge have, I mean, they've been on the back foot for the last 10 minutes. Right from when they were down off the start, they had to fight all the way around the long bend from around Surrey. And they're still just in contact. So they've had a really tough race. They've done incredibly well to stay in touch so far. I think Oxford just now have eked out maybe a couple more feet. They still look, they've got a bit of composure. They've held off the pressure from Cambridge. But Cambridge, if they can just keep on for the next 30 seconds, then this last bend of Oxford is just going to inch out, and they'll be able to get into their last bend, which gives them some advantage.
It's interesting, as you mentioned, that there was just a missed stroke back near Hammersmith, which cost Cambridge, and they just fell back at that point, and it's kind of remained at that lead since then. But Cambridge are still digging in, still hanging on, still hoping, and we'll go down to Wayne Pommen once more.
Well, these crews are making Matthew Pinsent work very hard down here. But Cambridge, about a minute ago, put in a huge push to try and get back into this race. They stepped up the rate. You could see the additional effort they were putting down, and they took a few feet back from Oxford. But after that, I think Oxford were able to withstand it, and now Oxford are back in control. I'm not sure how much Cambridge has left to throw at them now.
It looks like Oxford are putting their puddles right under the centre of the hull now, which is going to make the rowing really uncomfortable for Cambridge. It looked like there were some of the supporters in the Cambridge launch were waving their arms. I think they thought that Oxford were encroaching a bit too much on Cambridge's water, but it does look like Oxford have withstood that push from Cambridge and are now moving away again.
Yes, I did see briefly the giant arm outstretched by Matthew Pinsent with a white flag in it telling Oxford to get back in their own water, but as they pass the bandstand, just over a mile to go from here, and perhaps that gap now is beginning to look a bit more decisive. Very, very few boats come from behind a Barnes Bridge, which you can see in the distance, and that is a significant lead now for Oxford.
It's nothing for Cambridge. They've been rowing in Oxford Wash for a long time now. It's a horrible way to row. It's bumpy. Never really get into a consistent pattern. Oxford, on the other hand, they've got nice clear water. They're looking down at Cambridge. They've got them in their sights. They can control what they're doing. And they're looking pretty strong. Engine room in the middle, very solid. You see them pushing those strokes out. Cambridge just a little bit tired. You can start to see them having to fight for a little bit more. And yeah, that margin from Oxford to be able to hold on to it.
Past the houses of Barnes and the crowds which have come out in their thousands, hundreds of thousands today. They expected to be around 200,000, but there is the Oxford boat. William Waugh in the bow seat, then Matt O'Leary, Ollie Cook, Josh Bogajski, Oliver Segalar, Michael De Santo, the American, the President, Jamie Cook, Bacillus Ragusis, and Sam Collier, the cox, as they shoot the central span of Barnes Bridge, and Cambridge hanging on. But this is too much to try and get back beyond Barnes Bridge.
Yeah, umpire Matthew Pinsent obviously though still not happy that Oxford have enough of a lead to be right in Cambridge's water. He's been warning them quite a few times.
And still they fight, and you can hear the coxes asking, and Cambridge are hanging in there. It would be a miracle comeback from here, but Cambridge seem to be getting closer once again. And Cambridge, with that big power in the meat of the boat, and Jim Lett and Tim Tracy, Alexander Malawani, Patrick Abel, Lance Triddle in the 7th seat, Henry Meek at stroke, Ben Rubel in the bow seat. They are not going away. It's just the river is going to run out on them, I think.
Yeah, again, this is Cambridge's bend now. They could have 2/3 of a length, 3/4 of a length advantage around here. So for Oxford, again, really important to stay relaxed and just keep doing what they're doing. Trust, believe in their rhythm and their plan.
Cambridge have nothing to lose now. They've probably got 2.5 minutes of racing left. This is where they have to put everything in, push after push. They've done incredibly out to this point, rowing in Oxford Wash, not comfortable. They just got a little bit out. They managed to get some clean water, and you just saw them move up, only about half a length. So they've got another 2 minutes, and they just have to keep pushing on.
Down to Wayne Pommen once more.
Well, it's been interesting to watch. The base speed of the crews is actually very similar, but Oxford had the better start, and they capitalized around the Surrey Bend. But over the past 10 minutes or more, the crews have been going almost the same speed. So it's been a great race we've seen here today.
And that gap is not closing now for Cambridge. Oxford maintaining their lead. Again, their bodies will be urging them to stop, but their minds driving them on, and now they can just begin to creep across. We see Matthew Pinsent still not happy that they have enough of a lead, so he's saying they have to move back to their side. He's stretching out that white flag again. It's a good lead, but it's not yet decisive.
So I think there's not been a point where Oxford have felt they've really broken away from Cambridge. They've managed to get a good enough distance so they can settle, have some clean water, they can look back and see them in their sights, and certainly move in front, which has been a big help, I'm sure, in terms of, you know, Cambridge rowing that messy water, but it's been very equal speed.
Yeah, undoubtedly Cambridge have kept the pressure on right through this. And once again, just like we saw in the women's race, no matter what, they're not going to let it go until they cross the finish line.
Sam Collier, the cox, asking more for them towards the very end, but there will be No back-to-back wins for Cambridge on this day. Huge flotilla behind the two crews who are still so very close together. And again, it goes back to just that little bit around Hammersmith Bridge. Perhaps the brighter start for Oxford. But Oxford, in the 163rd boat race, will reclaim the Thames. They are champions once more. And Cambridge so close, but in the boat race that is so far away still. And Oxford have their celebrations, and that was a very, very good race.
I think all credit to Oxford there. Very clinical race. They got off the start very cleanly. They got out into their rhythm. Even when they came under pressure around the long side of their bend, then they were able to hold on to a very classy rhythm. Cambridge, though, a lot of tenacity. Even though they were in that horrible wash for such a long time, they were still able to keep in close touch even to the end.
And again, the contrast. Because they have given so much in training and dedication. Sacrifice is perhaps an exaggerated word, but they do. They get up early in the morning and have long winter sessions out at Ely for Cambridge and Wallingford for Oxford, and then it just doesn't happen on the day and so close. This is an ambitious move here. Is that Cook heading towards Cook?
Yeah, that's Jamie heading back, no doubt, to embrace his brother.
Too many Cooks spoil the boat.
And there they are.
There they are.
What a sight.
Well, remember the Winklevoss twins, the celebrated American twins, were the last brothers to attempt it, and they lost for Oxford. But here in 2017, Jamie and Ollie Cook are winners as brothers together in the Oxford boat. And those are rather sad, almost muted cheers from Cambridge for Oxford. Don't fall in now. But again, when you win, it doesn't matter. The Dutch usually like to, well, usually have supporters to swim out them, as Siegelau might head that way himself in a moment. It looks beaten, Siegelau there, just getting his breath back. But again, when you have given so much energy and you're absolutely broken, it doesn't seem to matter when you've won, I'm sure.
No, there's always a debt to pay, and that first couple of minutes after the race is over, then it's always horrible. But, you know, Oxford, I think they showed their dominance today. They got a big engine room, and they allowed that engine room to really work hard during the middle of the race. But, you know, Cambridge losing the race is horrible, but they had a fantastic effort. I don't think they probably got off the start quite as well as they wanted, and had to really work to get back in the race and keep in touch. But it's a horrible way to have to race just so close, never quite getting the chance where you're back on level. And for the guys in the stern, you know, they'd have never seen the Oxford boat. So that was a really hard row, and all credit to them for keeping that margin to what it was by the end, I think.
Vasilis Ragusis has successfully coughed up half his lung, and he's recovering now. And Oxford will head into the Mortlake and Anglin and Alpha Boat Club, which is where the celebrations will continue. And just to go through some of the other results as well, because in the reserve races, Isis beat Goldie, which is Oxford beating Cambridge, and then in the women's, I think it was about a good distance as well, 6 lengths. Blondie in the women's reserve race, Blondie, which is Cambridge, beat Osiris. So I think over the day it's even. A win for the Cambridge women, win for the Oxford men, and the reserve races split. There's Sean Bowden, who has seen so much success in the boat race, was a successful coach as well in the 90s. Had a spell with Cambridge, working there under Robin Williams, and now at Oxford, what success he's had. And so Cambridge have found shore already, and Oxford now weary but winners. They will head in. A very good race, and again, it's just as you were saying, Tom and Zoe, the start was so impressive for Oxford. Yes, they had to pay for that later on, but that was their building block, because they decided that then they would look for clear water, which they never actually found, but it was the right plan.
Yeah, I think Cambridge never let Oxford get comfortable, just like Tom said. You know, they pushed them the whole way, and a difficult position to be in for both crews, because actually when you're up, you want to keep moving and you want to see that you're breaking away, and you can see the opposition right there behind you, and you want to know that you're still moving, and you're still moving faster. But in this case, Cambridge hung on and hung on and hung on. So great race from both crews.
And you can see how valuable getting a good start can be, because it's not necessarily whether you lose half a length perhaps off the start. It's what you do in the sort of minute to minute and a half, 2 minutes, whether you settle into your rhythm. And if you're behind, it's very difficult to relax and actually stride out into something that's going to carry you through the next 15 minutes.
And those two men you just saw there, Michael DeSanto, Oliver Siegel, are Olympians, 4th and 3rd in the Olympics, and that's some enjoyable super slow motion for you of expectoration in the boat race. So, but that's the effort that goes into it. But again, I'm stressing that high quality boats. Ollie Cook was the non-travelling spare for Rio, but this is a high caliber crew of Oxford.
It is, and you know, a lot of experience, and that pays massive when it comes to big occasions. And in particular, I think that this Oxford is probably the biggest erg scores as well, so a very powerful unit. If you get them all working together well, then you get good results.
Well, we'll hear from the winners in a moment, but let us hear first of all from the losing president, the Cambridge president, Lance Tredell, who's with Lee Mackenzie.
Well, Lance, this is a tough sport when you win, but even more painful when you don't. How are the emotions?
You know, obviously bitterly disappointed not to get the win today. Yeah, it was, you know, the guys, you know, we stuck together, we really fought it out, we never gave up, but you know, it just wasn't enough today, unfortunately.
What was the difference? You had to back off to regroup. Was that necessary or was that costly in the end?
Oh, there was no stage where we backed off at all. You know, we were pushing the whole way, and yeah, say the guys put up a great fight, and you know, congratulations to Oxford on the win. But you know, Cambridge will be back. You know, there's a lot of great people, great things going on in the club, and we'll be back fighting next year for sure.
You've been on the winning side now. Sadly for you, you're on this side. This is your last boat race, though, is it?
Yeah. This is my last one, second of 2. So disappointed not to go out with a win, of course. But you know, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the team. You know, we're one unit. You know, all 9 of us in the crew plus the coach Steve. You know, and you know, so it's disappointing for me. But you know, it's about the club, and you know, we'll be back. We'll be back fighting. No doubt about that.
Thanks very much, Lance.
And you can see there the dejection on the Cambridge crew. It is such a huge effort, and when you're chasing the game as they were, it makes it even tougher. But a very strong race from them. And for Oxford, just a magnificent victory. They were stronger, they were cleaner, they were technically better. Let's hand you back to Jason for more reaction with them, with the victorious crew.
Yes, Claire, thank you very much indeed. Victory for Oxford then, and I've got the Cook boys with me. You know what they say, too many cooks. Fantastic performance, boys. What a brilliant performance.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't easy. We had a good race. It was a good row, but we put everything out there. Yeah, it was tough. Just trying to follow this guy. Yeah.
And how was it to be doing this as brothers as well? This is extra special.
I think it's extremely special. I mean, there's like a deeper bond. I think obviously it goes back to when I was born. Ollie was about 2 years old, and I kicked him out of my mum's bed because I wanted to get in there.
And he still sleeps in mum's bed.
Yeah, so I mean, but look, first of all, I think thank you so much to Cambridge. They put out a serious effort. They never gave up. I was terrified the whole way. I was communicating with the cox to try and make sure we wouldn't incur a foul. But you know, we just did the job. We were clinical, but you know, I think. Thank you so much to Cambridge and you know, the competitors.
And also, chaps, our team in studio were talking about the nerves and the adrenaline just before the race started. What was it like?
It's huge. I've done a few international races, but you see there's a huge crowd. There's a couple of helicopters. I mean, the buzz. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever experienced before.
Your president, Michael DeSanto, scarpered off as soon as he got out of the boat. I have no idea where he's gone, so we're hoping to get a word with him as well. But how crucial has Michael been?
He's been amazing. I mean, I'm living with him all this year, and he's just kept me on the straight and narrow, which I think has really improved my performance as well as having my brother here. But one thing I want to say is, you know, this race we were so well prepared. You know, Sean Bowden, our coach, did a phenomenal job. You know, and the Bowden and the boys are back.
And here he is, Michael DeSanto. Many congratulations to you. We were just wondering, where on earth did you run off to? Because you were at that boat straight away. Is there somebody you wanted to say hello to?
Yeah, my mom was in the launch.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty special. Pretty special.
Fantastic
Yeah,
performance.
absolutely.
And how does this compare? Because you rode for Team USA at the Rio Olympics, winning here today alongside the Cook brothers and the crew, who've been fantastic for you, Michael. Where does this rank?
There's nothing like it. I mean, in my 3 boat races, that's gonna be my favorite. Yeah, I mean, I think the harder it is, the more you can just savor it at the end. And you know, hats off to Cambridge. That was a good boat, but
we were just better on the day. That's what it's about. Often you get people like me saying, what's it been like in the run-up to this race? But I know that you've got a remarkable crew and an amazing team spirit as well, Michael.
I mean, you can see in the fall, it seemed like nothing was going our way. We had the pretty poor Fours Head result. And then training camp, it kind of all turned around for us, and we've just been building. And I think it culminated here today with that. We wanted that.
Some celebration tonight, boys?
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
And Michael, you have said you're not racing again in this boat race. On live television, would you like to say you'll be back?
No, I will not be back, but the president last year was asked a pretty tough question by Matthew, who umpired today. He asked, is this the end of an era? And I can say definitively today that it is not the end of an era. As long as Sean Bowden's at the helm, Oxford's going to be in a good place.
Have a great night tonight, lads. Thank you very much indeed. Many congratulations. Thank you, boys. Cheers. Thank you very much. Cheers, lads. Thank you. Brilliant.
Michael DeSanto mentioning Sean Bowden there. For Sean, it's his 12th win with Oxford, his 14th in total, because before he coached Oxford, he won 2 out of 3 races with Cambridge. So an amazingly successful coach. He has found the knack of inspiring and motivating men to train for as long as they have to, but it's the execution that matters on the day. And Catherine Granger, let's have a look back through the race. The start, again, not as influential as the women's race, but still really important, and Oxford got the better start.
Absolutely. At the start of the race, especially in a two-boat race, it's really, really crucial what can happen, because mentally as much as physically that race can transform in the first few strokes. Now, Oxford were often an absolute flyer and started to move out quite early. But what was great was Cambridge. Cambridge was a higher stroke rate, but kept the pressure on the whole way, even right up to Hammersmith Bridge, which is definitely much in Oxford's favour. Now here you can see the boats came close together. Now Matthew Pinson, who was umpiring this race, was calling them the flag the whole way through the race. So the boats came very, very close together, and what you actually see is the two-seat of the Cambridge boat did lose for one stroke, missed a stroke completely, and that can have quite a big influence. Now because of that, Oxford started to move away again, and the clear water opened up, and it looked like Oxford was going to have it would be up to them the rest of the race. They actually moved to the other side of the river, but had to separate again. But once they got moving, they were clear water, and it was quite a comfortable win in the end.
Constantine, you and George both know how much this race hurts. At what stage in the race, if at all, can you enjoy it?
Yeah, well, I'll pick up on what Catherine said there, which is it was comfortable in one respect because there was clear water, but you can see the pain written all over the faces of Vass in the stroke seat of the Oxford crew and Mike in the sixth seat especially, really giving it some. Cambridge stuck at it. It was a sticky old race, and in one way it was a classic Surrey win. The crew on Surrey just held and then started to row away at halfway. But it really stuck there. These crews nowadays, they know if you don't keep raising that bar, you're never going to get over it. And they are so strong. Those Cambridge guys just were not going to give up at all. And at the finish, there was only so much celebration. Those guys just collapsed. They could barely even raise their arms.
Well, we talked before the race about the significant story surrounding William Moore, only the third man to switch sides. He switches to Oxford. He has won the boat race with them. Let's hear from him now with Lee.
Well, you've done this in a selection of different colours now, different shades of blue, but congratulations. How was that?
Thank you. That was a really tough race. We had a great crew and a great row, but respect to Cambridge as well. We got out ahead, but they were just putting a hell of a lot of pressure on. So, a big thank you to Sean and Mike for leading a great campaign. But I know how hard it is to lose for Cambridge too. So big respect to Lance and their team as well, because that was a tough race. So.
And it's been an interesting dynamic for you. You've got to build up relations with these new crewmates. You've obviously got relations with Cambridge as well.
Yeah, it was a bit weird at first, but the Oxford guys have been really, really supportive of me, and still got a few friends left at Cambridge too. So but really great crew, we had a great race, and I'm really happy with that.
Ultimately, what was the difference out there today between the two?
I don't know, we had a great start and got into a great rhythm, and we got ahead. We did a huge push, I can't remember, around Hammersmith area, got out ahead, and then just held on for dear life, really. They just kept on being there, and they pushed us really hard, but I think we just kept our cool just about, and stuck to Sean's plan, and we just had a really good season, and
Yeah, thanks to my parents as well. I know they're pretty worried before today, but I'm pleased I didn't let them down either. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
And William Moore can now go back to concentrating on his studies. He's studying for a DPhil in population health. He said that was the reason that he went to Oxford, because that's the place that he could do it best. But for Oxford in total, that is now win number 80. So I think they're 2 behind Cambridge in the overall standings, George. I think Cambridge have 82 now and Oxford 80. But when you watch that race, what do you think overall for the future of rowing? Because the boat race has been a very good springboard for Olympic rowers, the two of you being a fine example.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, that was a classic race. Both crews will have learnt loads from that experience. It was really, really gritty from both crews. As Stan was saying, you could see the pain etched all over the faces of the Oxford guys who are in a relatively commanding position in the second half of the race. Those Cambridge guys just didn't give up, and that's fantastically valuable to take into their sporting careers, and I'm sure 1 or 2 of them will be in Tokyo for sure.
That one of the enduring races, the images post-race of the Cook brothers celebrating. And it's time now to join the presentation down at Mortlake, just beyond the finish line. Jason Mohammed can take us through it.
Yes, Claire, thank you very much indeed. The sun is shining. What a beautiful afternoon here along the Thames, and what a fantastic afternoon it has been for Oxford University in the men's race. Would you please give a very warm welcome to our presentation party? Please put your hands together for Sir Harpal Kumar, Chief Executive of Cancer Research UK. Alongside him, Hanneke Smits, Newton Investment Management. Welcome to you, Hanneke. To Robert Gillespie, Chairman of the Boat Race Company Limited, and also a man who needs no introduction, a man who at Christmas time showed us he has got as much rhythm as the crews here in the boat race. Would you please give a very warm welcome to Strictly Come Dancing winner, Mr. Ore Anuba. Not to mention a BBC Sport colleague. Ore, very warm welcome. Please show your appreciation also to a fine crew. They played their part in today's 163rd boat race. Would you please welcome Cambridge University Boat Club, led by the president, Lance Treadell. Commiserations to Cambridge. Ben Rubel, ladies and gentlemen. Freddie Davison, James Letton, Timothy Tracy, Alexander Malawanai, Patrick Ebel, Henry Meek, Hugo Ramamberson, and coach Steve Trapmore. They very much played their part. At the moment we have all been waiting for. Prepare for lots of fizz to be sprayed on the stage, and probably tonight and in the coming days. The winners of the boat race 2017 Oxford University Boat Race. Boat race champions 2017, please give a huge cheer to William Moore, to Matthew O'Leary, Oliver Cook, Joshua Bugaiski, Olivier Ziegler, another Cook, Mr. James Cook, Vasilis Ragusis, Sam Collier, don't forget a crucial member of the organisation, the coach. A big cheer for Sean Bowden. And led by this man, the president, Michael DeSanto. Michael, meet Ore. Harpal is now going to hand over the trophy to Ore. And Ore has the pleasure of handing the trophy to Michael. Oxford University Boat Club, ladies and gentlemen, as we just lose the lid. Hard to keep a lid on it. Boys, Michael, just before you crack open the fizz, this is your opportunity to thank a few people.
First and foremost, I thank my family, They're the backbone. They're the rock. But Sean, Barbara, Andy, Philippe, Austin, these guys, all of OUBC, my girlfriend. I mean, this is just spectacular. What a day.
It's like the Oscars, although we got our awards right. Also, what about the fans who've assembled here cheering you on, Michael?
And thank you so much. That's what makes the boat race so special. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, the drinks have been ready. You ready for this moment? Here we go, boys. Many congratulations. Oxford University Boat Club, ladies and gentlemen.
Helen Glover has joined me here to watch the celebrations of Oxford. I know that you've been watching the race with some of the massive crowd that are here. Generally speaking, what was the atmosphere like with those watching it in big crowds on TV?
Oh, it was amazing, yeah, to be part of a crowd that was watching our sport, it was watching rowing, cheering on the teams. It was a great atmosphere today.
Have you had chances to come to the boat race before?
Never quite in this capacity, I've come and I've watched from the sidelines, but I've kind of avoided crowds because I don't want to catch a cold, I didn't want to be ill or be on my feet all day. So to be here and kind of be watching what's